the regenerative roadmap, policy, economics, and the global scaling of sustainable agriculture. The modern landscape of sustainable agriculture, necessity, principles, and global challenges. Securing our land and future. In an era defined by a rapidly expanding global population and accelerating climate change, a critical re-evaluation of food production methods is not merely an option, it is a global imperative. Sustainable agriculture is not just a buzzword. It is a holistic, long-term approach designed to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. It calls for building an agricultural system that is resilient, productive, and profitable, while simultaneously maintaining soil health, conserving water resources, and promoting biodiversity. This expansive series will delve into the profound complexities of this concept, encompassing the intersections of technology, economics, and policymaking. This initial section focuses on analyzing the contemporary landscape of sustainable agriculture, understanding its immediate necessity, defining its three fundamental principles, and scrutinizing the global challenges that impede its widespread adoption. The future of farming hinges on our collective ability to transition towards systems that operate in synergistic coexistence with nature. The urgent imperative: why sustainability is non-negotiable. The agricultural sector currently faces several existential threats, transforming the adoption of sustainable practices from a good idea into an absolute necessity. Understanding these underlying drivers is crucial to appreciating the urgency of the transition. Rapid population growth and intensifying food demand. According to projections from the United Nations, the world population is expected to reach approximately 9.7 billion by 2050. Feeding this colossal number presents an immense challenge, especially as arable land is a finite resource, continually being diminished by urbanization, industrial expansion, and degradation. The need for increased agricultural output is undeniable, but this expansion must occur in a manner that does not inflict further damage on our natural capital. Conventional, industrial farming, often heavily reliant on synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, is fundamentally incapable of sustaining this demand indefinitely at scale, as these practices lead to a predictable decline in soil fertility and long-term land productivity. The pervasive impact of climate change. Climate change represents the single greatest long-term threat to agricultural productivity worldwide. Rising temperatures, erratic weather patterns, prolonged droughts, and unseasonal rainfall severely disrupt established farming cycles. Increased sea levels and extreme weather events, such as devastating cyclones and floods, compromise coastal agricultural zones and vital infrastructure. Sustainable agriculture, which includes climate-smart agriculture, enhances the system's ability to withstand these shocks and recover quickly. Resilience. This involves strategies like selecting crop varieties that thrive with less water or under fluctuating temperatures, and utilizing techniques that promote carbon sequestration, locking atmospheric carbon dioxide into the soil. Depletion of land and soil resources. Globally, soil erosion, desertification, and a critical decline in soil quality are grave issues. Destructive farming practices, such as intensive tillage and continuous monocropping, strip the land of its precious topsoil, which contains the highest concentration of essential nutrients. It can take centuries to form just 1 inch of topsoil. Therefore, maintaining and enhancing soil health is the central objective of sustainable agriculture. This is accomplished through methods like no-till farming, planting cover crops, and crop rotation, which allow the soil to regain its natural structure and nutrient balance, acting as a natural sponge for water and a sink for carbon. Pressure on water resources and biodiversity loss. Agriculture is the largest consumer of fresh water globally. Conventional methods often require vast amounts of water, placing extreme pressure on water-scarce regions. Simultaneously, the overuse of chemical pesticides not only targets harmful pests but also destroys beneficial insects, such as pollinators, and disrupts the wider ecosystem. Sustainable agriculture focuses on water use efficiency, e.g., drip irrigation, rainwater harvesting, and employs practices that foster biodiversity, e.g., creating natural habitats and using natural pest control. Protecting biodiversity is crucial because it ensures the stability and long-term health of the entire food system. The 3 pillars of sustainable agriculture. Sustainable agriculture is not a rigid set of rules. It is a philosophy built upon three interconnected and balanced principles, often referred to as the triple bottom line. All three dimensions must be addressed simultaneously for a system to be genuinely sustainable. Environmental integrity, planet. This pillar emphasizes practices that strengthen natural systems rather than degrade them. The primary focus areas include soil conservation, maintaining the soil structure, organic matter, and carbon content. This is achieved through practices like cover cropping, reduced or zero tillage, and mulching. Water management, responsible and efficient use of water resources, employing water-saving technologies and techniques like precision irrigation systems and water harvesting. Biodiversity conservation, encouraging the diversity of plant and animal life both within the farm ecosystem and its surrounding areas. This supports natural pest control and pollination services. Pollution control, minimizing the runoff of chemical fertilizers and pesticides, which helps reduce water and air pollution. Economic viability, profit. No agricultural system can be sustainable if it is not profitable for the farmers who manage it. This principle ensures that sustainable techniques provide a stable and adequate income for producers. Long-term profitability, maintaining or increasing crop yields and quality over time while reducing input costs, such as the need for costly chemical inputs. Diversification and market access, growing multiple crops, diversification, provides insulation against market volatility and weather shocks. It also involves accessing premium markets for organic, locally sourced, or specialty products. Risk management, implementing strategies to mitigate risks associated with climate uncertainty and market fluctuations, such as investing in climate-resilient crops and adopting robust insurance mechanisms. Social equity and community well-being, people. Sustainability extends beyond soil and profit. It is fundamentally about people and their needs. Key components include fair labor practices, ensuring safe workplaces, fair wages, and an improved standard of living for farm workers. Food security and access, guaranteeing that nutritious, safe, and culturally appropriate food is accessible to the entire community, particularly in low-income or underserved areas. Farmer and community engagement, placing farmers at the center of decision-making processes and providing them with adequate access to education, training, and appropriate technology. This pillar also promotes community-controlled food systems like local farmers' markets and food co-ops. Global challenges hindering widespread adoption. Despite the clear benefits, several significant hurdles obstruct the widespread global adoption of sustainable agriculture, particularly in developing nations where the need is often most acute. Economic and investment barriers. The transition to sustainable agriculture can be financially demanding initially. Purchasing no-till equipment, establishing cover crop systems, or installing complex drip irrigation requires substantial upfront capital investment, which is often prohibitive for smallholder and resource-poor farmers. Furthermore, there is an inherent risk of an initial yield dip when transitioning from high-input conventional farming, which lasts until the soil quality has fully rebounded. Overcoming this economic risk requires targeted investments, subsidies, and improved credit facilities designed specifically for sustainable transitions. Policy and governmental gaps. In many nations, agricultural policies remain anchored to the conventional maximize output model, which prioritizes short-term yields over long-term stability. Subsidies on chemical fertilizers, water, or energy often inadvertently incentivize unsustainable practices, discouraging farmers from adopting alternative methods. Effective policy changes must include direct payments to farmers for providing environmental services, such as carbon sequestration or water conservation, and redirecting investments towards sustainable research and extension programs. International policy alignment is also crucial to ensure fair trade and common sustainability standards across borders. Access to knowledge, data, and technology. Sustainable agriculture is inherently more knowledge-intensive than its conventional counterpart. A farmer must possess a deep understanding of their specific soil type, microclimate variations, pest cycles, and the optimal rotation for their region. In many areas, especially in the developing world, there is a severe lack of quality agricultural extension services and tailored training. Moreover, crucial modern technologies, such as precision agriculture tools and advanced weather forecasting systems, are often financially or logistically inaccessible to small-scale farmers. Bridging this knowledge gap through localized, practical education and democratizing access to data is essential. Market and consumer pressures. Market forces frequently favor large-scale, uniform, and low-cost production models. Food produced using sustainable methods may initially have a higher cost, and without widespread consumer education about the environmental and social benefits, consumers may be unwilling to pay a premium. The market must be reformed to provide better incentives for sustainably produced food, including robust certification systems, traceability, and strong, direct connections between producers and consumers. This shifts the focus from simple cost minimization to value maximization, value that includes ecological and social well-being. The pivotal role of institutions. To confront these global challenges effectively, the role of national and international institutions is paramount. Federal agencies like the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, and global organizations such as the Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, play a critical role in directing research funding, setting policy direction, and providing direct support to farmers. The work of these institutions is not limited to policy formulation. It involves developing new models for sustainable farming, sharing vital data and knowledge, and integrating social and environmental requirements across the entire agricultural supply chain. Collaboration at a global scale is necessary to formulate cohesive solutions to universal issues like climate change and food security. Conclusion and transition. Sustainable agriculture represents the foundational framework for modern farming, offering a holistic, long-term solution to pressing challenges like climate change, resource depletion, and soil degradation. Its three pillars, environmental, economic, and social, ensure that it is a strategic policy and philosophy, not just a set of techniques. In the next section, we will shift our focus to the practical side, undertaking a detailed discussion of the key sustainable farming techniques, their scientific rationale, and their specific application across diverse farming systems worldwide. Key techniques and scientific foundations of sustainable agriculture. Introduction. From philosophy to practice, the shift towards sustainable agriculture demands more than a change in mindset. It requires a fundamental overhaul of on-farm practices. Where conventional farming often relies on brute force, single-solution inputs, like synthetic fertilizers for nutrients or chemical pesticides for pests, sustainable systems utilize a sophisticated, integrated toolkit. These methods are designed not just to treat symptoms but to enhance the farm's entire ecosystem, relying on ecological processes rather than industrial products. This section systematically breaks down the most critical sustainable techniques, grouping them by their primary function, enhancing soil health, optimizing resource use, and achieving ecological balance. The scientific foundations of these methods reveal why they are superior solutions for long-term food security and planetary well-being. Techniques for soil health and carbon sequestration. The soil is the single most vital component of a sustainable farm. Healthy soil acts as a robust ecosystem, a natural filter, and a crucial carbon sink. Techniques aimed at conservation focus on minimizing disturbance and maximizing organic content. A. Conservation tillage, no-till and reduced tillage, the practice. Conservation tillage involves minimizing or eliminating the mechanical disturbance of the soil, plowing or harrowing. No-till farming leaves the previous year's crop residue, stalks and leaves, on the field surface, planting the new seed directly through this residue using specialized drills. Reduced tillage methods involve minimal, less invasive plowing. Scientific foundation preventing soil erosion. Crop residue acts as a protective armor against wind and water erosion, preventing the loss of nutrient-rich topsoil. Carbon sequestration. Tillage exposes soil carbon to air, where it oxidizes and is released as carbon dioxide. By eliminating plowing, no-till farming dramatically increases the rate at which organic carbon is stored in the soil, directly combating climate change. Water retention. The residue acts like mulch, shading the soil, reducing water evaporation, and improving water infiltration. The undisturbed soil structure also creates natural pore spaces, allowing water to soak in better during heavy rains, thereby reducing runoff. B. Cover cropping and crop rotation. The practice. Cover crops, e.g., clover, rye, vetch, are plants grown specifically to cover the soil rather than to be harvested for cash. Crop rotation involves systematically planting different types of crops in the same field across growing seasons. Scientific foundation: nitrogen fixation and nutrient cycling. Leguminous cover crops, like clover, host bacteria that convert atmospheric nitrogen into plant-available forms, effectively acting as a natural, free fertilizer and reducing the need for synthetic nitrogen. Breaking disease cycles. Crop rotation is crucial for disrupting the life cycles of specific pests and diseases that thrive on continuous monocultures, e.g., corn after corn. When a non-host crop is planted, the pest population naturally declines organic matter and soil structure. Cover crops, especially deep-rooted varieties, break up compacted soil, improve aeration, and when terminated and left as residue, they dramatically increase soil organic matter, SOM. SOM is the backbone of healthy soil, improving its ability to hold nutrients and water. C. Composting, manure, and biochar application. The practice. These techniques focus on recycling organic waste materials, animal waste, crop residues, or forest biomass, and applying them to the soil in a stabilized form. Scientific foundation: microbial diversity. Compost and properly aged manure are rich in beneficial microorganisms, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, which are essential for nutrient exchange and breaking down complex organic compounds into simple, absorbable nutrients for the cash. Crops. Slow-release nutrients. Unlike fast-acting synthetic fertilizers, organic amendments release nutrients, like phosphorus and potassium, slowly and consistently over the season, matching the natural absorption rhythm of the plants and reducing the risk of nutrient runoff into waterways. Biochar's carbon stability. Biochar, a charcoal-like substance made by heating biomass in a low-oxygen environment, is highly stable and can remain in the soil for hundreds of years. It enhances water retention, improves soil acidity, and is an extremely effective long-term carbon sequestration tool. Optimizing resource use through efficiency. Sustainable farming seeks to produce more output with fewer inputs, particularly when it comes to water, energy, and chemicals. Technology and ecological design are central to this goal. A. Precision agriculture, PA, the practice. Precision agriculture utilizes technology, GPS, drones, satellite imagery, soil sensors, and data analytics to observe, measure, and respond to variability within a field. This leads to variable rate technology, VRT, where inputs, seed, water, fertilizer, are applied only where and when they are needed, in the exact required amount. Scientific foundation: hyperlocalized optimization. By understanding the specific needs of a small area, sometimes down to a few square meters, PA minimizes the blanket application of inputs. This prevents nutrient leaching, when excess fertilizer is wasted and pollutes water, and significantly cuts costs. Real-time diagnostics. Sensors provide real-time data on soil moisture, temperature, and nutrient levels, allowing farmers to irrigate exactly when the soil moisture threshold is crossed, thus dramatically reducing water waste compared to timed or calendar-based irrigation. B. Water-saving irrigation and rainwater harvesting. The practice. Techniques like drip irrigation deliver water directly to the plant root zone, and rainwater harvesting captures and stores rainfall for later use. Scientific foundation: minimizing evaporation. Drip irrigation systems bypass surface evaporation, achieving water use efficiencies often exceeding 95%, compared to 50 to 70% for flood or sprinkler methods. Groundwater recharge and reduced runoff. Properly managed rainwater harvesting, e.g., check dams, ponds, bunds, slows water movement across the landscape. This allows more water to infiltrate the soil, recharging local aquifers, reducing soil erosion, and ensuring a more stable local water supply during dry periods. C. Agroforestry and intercropping. The practice. Agroforestry integrates trees and shrubs into crop and animal farming systems. Intercropping involves growing two or more different crops simultaneously in the same field. Scientific foundation: synergy and microclimates. Trees in agroforestry systems provide shade, which reduces water stress on understory crops and livestock. Their root systems stabilize the soil, acting as natural windbreaks and reducing wind erosion. Furthermore, tree leaves and root decomposition add diverse organic matter to the soil. Complementary resource use. In intercropping, scientists select plant species that use different resources at different times or depths. For instance, a tall plant with deep roots, like maize, can be intercropped with a short, shallow-rooted legume, like beans, maximizing the use of light, water, and soil nutrients within the same area. This boosts the overall yield per unit of land. Achieving ecological balance and pest management. Sustainable agriculture replaces reliance on broad-spectrum chemicals with ecological intelligence. The goal is not eradication, but management, by fostering a natural balance between crops, pests, and their natural enemies. Integrated Pest Management, IPM, the practice. IPM is a comprehensive, holistic strategy that focuses on long-term pest prevention and suppression with minimal risks to human health and the environment. It only uses chemical interventions as a last resort. Scientific foundation. Economic threshold. The core principle of IPM is determining the economic threshold, the pest population level at which the cost of treatment is less than the economic damage the pests would cause. This prevents unnecessary spraying. Forward approach. Cultural controls. Using practices like crop rotation and sanitation to prevent pests. Physical mechanical controls. Using traps, nets, or handpicking. Biological controls. Introducing or conserving natural enemies, predators and parasitoids. Chemical controls. Using highly targeted, low-toxicity biopesticides or chemicals only when necessary and after monitoring shows the pest population has crossed the economic threshold. Shutterstock B. Biological control and habitat creation. The practice. This involves intentionally introducing or conserving natural predators, like ladybugs that eat aphids, or parasitoids, wasps that lay eggs inside pest larvae, to control pest populations. Habitat creation involves planting non-crop refuge plants that provide shelter and food for these beneficial insects. Scientific foundation. Trophic cascades. Biological control leverages the natural trophic, feeding, levels in an ecosystem. By encouraging the presence of a pest's natural enemy, the pest population is naturally regulated without chemical interference. This system is self-sustaining once established. Pollinator health. By eliminating broad-spectrum insecticides and creating diverse floral habitats, these practices directly support essential insect populations, like bees, which are critical for the reproduction of over 75% of the world's food crops. Conclusion. The synergy of the system. The techniques described, from no-till farming to integrated pest management, are not isolated practices. They are components of a single, highly integrated farming system. The power of sustainable agriculture lies in the synergy between these methods. Conservation tillage creates ideal conditions for cover crops. Cover crops improve soil organic matter. Improved soil organic matter increases water retention, reducing the reliance on irrigation, and the diversification inherent in these systems naturally suppresses pests, reducing the need for chemical inputs. This integrated approach represents a profound alignment of human agriculture with natural ecological principles. While these techniques are scientifically robust, their large-scale adoption requires addressing the financial and political hurdles first discussed in Economic Viability and Market Dynamics of Sustainable Agriculture. The business case for the triple bottom line. The transition to sustainable agriculture is often perceived as primarily an environmental investment, but its success hinges on the economic viability pillar. Farmers operate businesses, and any practice, no matter how ecologically sound, will fail if it doesn't generate stable, long-term profit. This section addresses the central question: how can farming systems that prioritize environmental health and social equity compete financially in a global market optimized for high-volume, low-cost production? The answer lies in shifting the focus from input cost minimization to value maximization and risk mitigation. Sustainable farming techniques reduce reliance on expensive external inputs while simultaneously opening access to premium markets and enhancing the long-term productivity and resilience of the farm's most valuable asset, the soil. Reducing costs, the core financial advantage. The most immediate and demonstrable financial benefit of sustainable agriculture comes from its ability to dramatically cut operational expenses by replacing purchased inputs with natural, on-farm ecological processes. Lowering input dependence. Conventional farming systems are heavily dependent on external, non-renewable inputs, the costs of which are volatile and subject to global supply chain disruptions. Sustainable practices directly counter this. Synthetic fertilizers, the use of cover crops, especially legumes, for nitrogen fixation and the application of on-farm compost and manure significantly reduce the need for synthetic nitrogen and phosphorus fertilizers. These fertilizers are major cost drivers and a significant source of greenhouse gas emissions. Pesticides and herbicides. Implementing integrated pest management, IPM, using crop rotation to break pest cycles, and relying on biological controls, natural predators, minimizes or eliminates the purchase of expensive chemical sprays, leading to substantial savings in energy and fuel. No-till or reduced tillage systems require significantly fewer passes across the field with heavy machinery. This translates directly into lower fuel consumption and reduced wear and tear on equipment, lowering maintenance costs. Studies often show fuel savings of 25% to 50% in no-till systems. B. Enhancing resource efficiency and durability. Sustainable practices are intrinsically linked to efficiency, which translates directly to cost savings over time. Water efficiency. Techniques like drip irrigation and increased soil organic matter (SOM) retention from cover cropping mean that farmers need less water to achieve the same yield. In regions with rising water prices or drought-prone conditions, this efficiency is critical for financial survival. Soil durability. By preventing soil erosion, the silent theft of capital, sustainable farmers protect the fundamental asset of their business. The cost of replacing lost topsoil or remediation due to degradation is astronomical. Conservation is, therefore, a massive long-term financial saving. Increasing revenue, accessing premium markets. While cost reduction stabilizes the operation, increased revenue drives growth. Sustainable agriculture opens up new, high-value revenue streams by aligning production with evolving consumer and institutional demand. A. Organic and regenerative certification premiums. The most direct path to premium revenue is through certification. Products labeled as organic or, increasingly, regenerative command a significantly higher price at the wholesale and retail level. Price premium. Consumers are willing to pay an average of 20% to 50% more for organic produce, meat, and dairy due to perceived health and environmental benefits. This premium often outweighs the transitional costs associated with certification. Market growth. The global market for organic products continues to grow at a faster pace than the conventional market, offering a stable and expanding opportunity for sustainable producers. B. Diversification and value-added products. Sustainable farms often adopt diversified systems, like agroforestry or intercropping, which create multiple revenue streams from a single land area, mitigating risk and generating value. Portfolio effect. By growing specialty crops alongside commodity crops, or integrating livestock, grazing cattle in a field after the main harvest, the farmer has a diversified economic portfolio. If the market price of one commodity drops, the others can compensate. Ecotourism and education. Many sustainable farms leverage their ecological health and aesthetic appeal to generate non-crop income through farm stays, educational tours, or direct-to-consumer events. C. Direct marketing and supply chain control. Sustainable farmers often bypass traditional, complex supply chains by selling directly to consumers, farmers markets, restaurants, or through community-supported agriculture (CSA) schemes. Higher profit margin. Direct sales eliminate the middleman, allowing the farmer to capture the full retail value of their product, significantly increasing profit margins per unit. Price stability. CSA schemes provide farmers with upfront capital at the beginning of the season, guaranteeing income regardless of short-term weather or market fluctuations, adding a critical layer of financial stability. Risk mitigation and financial resilience. Climate change and market volatility are the two biggest threats to modern agriculture. Sustainable practices build resilience that translates directly into financial security. A. Climate resilience. Drought resistance. Soil enhanced with high soil organic matter (SOM) can hold dramatically more water, acting like a sponge, than degraded soil. This resilience is a financial firewall during extended dry periods, preventing total crop failure and the associated economic devastation. Extreme weather buffers. The use of cover crops and agroforestry protects the soil structure from extreme rainfall events, minimizing washout and erosion damage, thus safeguarding future yields and avoiding costly land recovery operations. B. Insurance and credit access. As climate risks increase, financial institutions are beginning to recognize the lower risk profile of sustainable farms. Favorable terms. Farms that can demonstrate strong soil health and diversified income streams often qualify for better insurance premiums and more favorable loan terms, as they are viewed as a safer investment with a reduced probability of catastrophic loss. This is becoming a major policy focus for institutions like the USDA. C. Environmental payments. The new revenue stream, a rapidly emerging revenue opportunity, is payment for the environmental services that sustainable farms provide. Carbon markets. Farmers using verifiable carbon sequestration methods, like no-till and cover crops, can enroll in carbon trading markets and receive direct financial payments per ton of stored in their soil. This is a potentially massive new income stream independent of crop yields water quality payments. In some regions, governments or utility companies pay farmers to implement practices that filter water naturally, e.g., riparian buffers, thus reducing the need for costly municipal water treatment plants. Economic challenges and the transition period. Despite the clear long-term benefits, the transition to sustainable farming presents short-term financial hurdles that require targeted policy support. Initial investment costs. Adopting specialized equipment, e.g., no-till planters, precision agriculture sensors, and establishing conservation structures is expensive. The learning curve and initial yield dip. The first few years of transition can be challenging. As the soil ecosystem adjusts, farmers may experience a temporary dip in yields. This is a period of high financial vulnerability that requires robust financial safety nets and excellent technical support. Labor intensity. Some sustainable practices, such as certain biological controls or manual weed management, can be more labor-intensive, requiring higher labor costs, which must be offset by premium prices or efficiency gains elsewhere. The challenge for policymakers and financial institutions is to bridge this valley of death, the period of high costs and potential low yields during the transition, to unlock the long-term, resilient profitability of sustainable agriculture. Point 6. Conclusion and transition. The economic case for sustainable agriculture is robust, moving far beyond niche markets. It is driven by powerful, measurable financial levers, significant reduction in input costs, access to high-growth premium markets, and a crucial increase in financial resilience against climate and market volatility. The core shift is recognizing that ecological health is synonymous with financial asset preservation. The successful scaling of these systems requires supportive policies and incentives. In Section 4, we will pivot to examine this essential element: policy, governance, and global collaboration, focusing on the institutional frameworks needed to accelerate the adoption of sustainable farming practices worldwide, including the central role of organizations like the USDA. Policy, governance, and global collaboration for sustainable agriculture. The policy mandate for transformation. The evidence is clear. Sustainable agriculture is technically feasible and economically sound in the long run. However, the short-term barriers, initial investment costs, market inertia, and the risk of transitional yield dips are often too high for farmers to overcome without governmental and institutional support. Policy and governance serve as the essential scaffolding that stabilizes the transition, mitigating risks for producers and aligning economic incentives with ecological health. This section explores the critical levers that governments and international bodies must pull to accelerate the widespread adoption of sustainable farming. It highlights the shift from production-focused subsidies to ecosystem services payments and details the indispensable role of powerful national agencies, like the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, in shaping this global future. Redesigning financial incentives, from production to conservation. For decades, agricultural policy in most developed nations has favored large-scale commodity production, often linking subsidies directly to acres planted or output volume. This incentivized maximum input use and monoculture, directly undermining sustainability. The modern mandate is to decouple subsidies from production and reward farmers for the public good they provide. Paying for ecosystem services. The most transformative policy shift involves establishing mechanisms to pay farmers directly for the ecosystem services they generate. These services, clean water, carbon sequestration, biodiversity, and healthy soil, benefit society as a whole but are not currently valued by the market. Carbon markets and credits. Governments can create regulatory frameworks that validate and monetize soil carbon sequestration. Farmers who adopt no-till and cover cropping can be paid for the verifiable tons of carbon removed from the atmosphere and stored in their soil. This transforms farming from a climate problem contributor into a climate solution provider. Water quality programs. Policies can establish watershed-specific programs where funding is provided to farmers to create riparian buffers, vegetated areas along streams, or implement nutrient management plans that drastically reduce fertilizer runoff. This saves municipalities the exponentially higher costs of filtering polluted water. Biodiversity payments. Incentives should be offered for maintaining non-cultivated habitats, pollinator strips, and traditional landscape features that foster ecological diversity. Shutterstock. B. Tax credits and low-interest loans for transition. Governments must address the valley of death, the initial high-cost, high-risk period, faced by transitioning farmers. Investment tax credits, offering tax rebates for the purchase of specialized conservation tillage equipment, e.g., no-till planters, or advanced precision agriculture technology can lower the capital barrier to entry. Transitional subsidies, direct payments or premium crop insurance should be offered during the first 3 to 5 years of an organic or regenerative transition. This shields farmers from the economic risk associated with the initial yield adjustments and knowledge curve. The central role of national institutions, the USDA example. National departments of agriculture hold the administrative power, scientific resources, and financial means to drive sustainable change. The United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, serves as a powerful case study in how a federal agency can recalibrate its mission towards sustainability. Conservation programs and funding. The USDA administers some of the largest land conservation programs globally, providing both technical assistance and financial incentives. The Environmental Quality Incentives Program, EQIP. This program provides financial and technical assistance to farmers and ranchers to address natural resource concerns and deliver environmental benefits. EQIP funding is critical for farmers adopting practices like cover crops, nutrient management, and grazing systems. The Conservation Reserve Program, CRP. The CRP pays farmers to retire environmentally sensitive land from production and plant species that improve environmental health and water quality. Research and extension. The USDA's Agricultural Research Service, ARS, and National Institute of Food and Agriculture, NIFAR, are essential for funding the science that develops climate-resilient crops, effective biological controls, and data-driven farming techniques. Crucially, the cooperative extension system ensures this complex knowledge reaches farmers on the ground through local, trusted advisors. B. Market development and certification. The USDA plays a vital role in validating and promoting sustainable products, which helps sustainable farmers access the price premiums discussed in Section 3. National Organic Program, NOP. The NOP establishes and enforces the rules, standards, and labels for organic products, providing the necessary consumer trust and certification integrity that underpins the economic viability of the organic sector. Risk management. By tailoring crop insurance products to reflect the lower risk profile of diversified, sustainable operations, the USDA can further stabilize the economics for regenerative farmers. Global governance and international collaboration. Agricultural issues, especially those related to climate change, water scarcity, and trade, transcend national borders. International frameworks and collective action are required to prevent unsustainable practices from simply shifting from regulated to unregulated regions. The role of the FAO and UN frameworks. The Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, of the United Nations is instrumental in setting global standards and facilitating knowledge transfer, particularly in developing countries. Global benchmarking. The FAO develops benchmarks and indicators for measuring the sustainability of food systems, allowing countries to track progress against common goals, like the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG 2, Zero Hunger. Capacity building. Through programs like the Global Alliance for Climate-Smart Agriculture, GACSA, the FAO helps nations develop climate adaptation and mitigation strategies specific to their agroecological zones, often focusing on traditional and agroecological farming methods. B. Harmonizing trade and environmental standards. International trade agreements often pose a challenge to sustainable agriculture if they prioritize only the lowest cost of production. Future trade policies must incorporate environmental and labor standards. Sustainable sourcing mandates. Trade agreements could mandate minimum environmental standards for imported goods, preventing a race to the bottom, where countries with lax environmental regulations gain a competitive advantage. Certification mutual recognition. Streamlining the recognition of national and private sustainability certifications, like organic or fair trade, across borders reduces the burden on farmers exporting sustainable products and facilitates broader market access. Bridging the technology and knowledge gap globally. Policy must also focus on democratizing access to the knowledge and tools required for complex sustainable systems. Open source data and AI. governments and international organizations should invest in making critical agricultural data, weather forecasts, soil maps, and pest outbreak warnings, publicly available and easily accessible to smallholder farmers through mobile technology. Leveraging artificial intelligence, AI, to analyze local data and provide site-specific recommendations can be a game-changer for regions with limited extension services. Farmer-to-farmer networks. Policies should support farmer-led research and extension networks. Experience shows that farmers are most likely to adopt new, complex practices when they see their neighbors successfully implementing them. Funding and protecting these knowledge-sharing communities is a high-return public investment. Conclusion and transition. Policy and governance are the engines of the sustainable agricultural revolution. By transforming financial incentives from rewarding raw volume to valuing ecological stewardship, governments can unlock the tremendous potential of sustainable farming to solve global crises. National agencies like the USDA provide the necessary infrastructure for research, technical assistance, and market integrity, while international cooperation ensures a harmonized, global approach to climate and trade challenges. Comparative analysis of global sustainable farming models. Context-specific solutions. While the fundamental principles of sustainable agriculture, environmental integrity, economic viability, and social equity, are universal, the methods for achieving them are highly context-specific. What works on a smallholder farm in Southeast Asia will differ significantly from a large-scale ranch in the American Midwest or a highly regulated farm in Europe. This section provides a comparative analysis of successful, real-world sustainable farming models across diverse global regions. By examining these distinct case studies, we can appreciate that there is no single blueprint for sustainability. Rather, it is a dynamic process built on local ecological knowledge, cultural adaptation, and supportive policy frameworks. Case Study 1. The European Union's Farm-to-Fork Strategy. The European Union, EU, provides the clearest example of a top-down, regionally coordinated policy aiming for sustainable food system transformation. The Farm-to-Fork, F2F, strategy, launched in 2020, is the cornerstone of the European Green Deal. Key features and goals. Target-driven reduction. The F2F strategy sets ambitious, legally binding targets, including reducing the use of chemical pesticides and highly hazardous pesticides by 50%, reducing nutrient losses from fertilizers by at least 50%, and reducing fertilizer use by at least 20% by 2030. Organic land expansion. A central goal is to dedicate 25% of the EU's agricultural land to organic farming by 2030. This expansion is supported by targeted financial incentives and market promotion efforts. Sustainability labeling. The EU is working to introduce mandatory sustainability labeling to empower consumers to make informed choices, aligning consumer demand with ecological production. Success factor. The EU model proves that large-scale, coordinated policy, backed by significant financial redirection, from production subsidies to environmental payments, is essential to accelerating the sustainable transition across an entire continent. Case Study 2, Asia, Integrated Rice-Fish Culture. In many parts of Asia, particularly China, Vietnam, and Indonesia, farmers employ an ancient and highly efficient integrated rice-fish culture system, which exemplifies true agroecology, farming that mimics nature. Key features and principles. Aquaculture and rice synergy. Fish, like carp or tilapia, are raised directly in the flooded rice paddies. The fish graze on pests, like insect larvae and weeds, reducing the need for pesticides and herbicides. Nutrient cycling. The fish's excrement provides a natural, constant source of fertilizer for the rice plants, significantly reducing the reliance on external inputs. The fish also churn the water, improving aeration and nutrient distribution. Dual revenue stream. This system provides two marketable products, rice, a staple food, and fish, a high-value protein source, from the same land and water resources, significantly enhancing economic viability and food security for the farming family. Success factor. This model shows that system diversification and bidirectional synergy can lead to highly productive and resilient systems that are economically sound and environmentally clean without access to modern, high-tech inputs. Case Study 3, North America, Regenerative Ranching. In the grasslands of North America, regenerative ranching represents a profound shift in how livestock is managed, moving away from continuous grazing toward a model that rapidly builds soil health. Key features and principles. Holistic management, rotational grazing. Cattle are managed in dense herds and moved frequently across the pasture, mimicking the natural grazing patterns of wild herbivores, like bison. They intensely graze a small area and then are moved, allowing the land a long period of recovery. Soil health impact. This method stimulates grass root growth, which pumps large amounts of atmospheric carbon into the soil. The grazing action and manure deposits rapidly increase the soil organic matter, SOM, improving the land's capacity to absorb and retain water. Biodiversity enhancement. Healthy, diverse perennial grasses thrive, creating better habitat for birds and small mammals, and enhancing the farm's biodiversity. Success factor. Regenerative ranching demonstrates that livestock, often blamed for environmental damage, can be a powerful tool for ecological restoration and carbon sequestration when managed according to ecological principles, turning degraded land into productive, resilient grasslands. Case Study 4. Indigenous Systems. The Milpa, Mesoamerica. The Milpa system, utilized for millennia across Mesoamerica, Mexico, and Central America, is the classic example of polyculture and locally adapted agroecology. Key features and principles. The Three Sisters. The Milpa traditionally involves planting corn, beans, and squash together. Corn provides a stalk for the beans to climb, physical support. Beans are legumes that fix nitrogen in the soil, nutrient support. Squash grows along the ground, shading the soil to suppress weeds and retain moisture, soil conservation. Genetic diversity. This system naturally promotes the use of diverse, local crop varieties, making the entire harvest inherently more resilient to localized pest outbreaks, diseases, and climate fluctuations than a monoculture. Cultural and social equity. The Milpa system is deeply interwoven with the social fabric of indigenous communities, ensuring access to diverse, nutritious food and preserving traditional knowledge. Success factor. The Milpa's longevity and stability prove that high-level functional diversity can generate stability, superior nutritional output, and resilience with virtually no external inputs. Synthesis. The common threads of global success. Despite their vast differences in climate, scale, and culture, these successful global models share several core characteristics that underpin their long-term sustainability. Functional diversity. All models move away from monoculture toward polyculture or integrated systems, trees, livestock, fish, multiple crops, to leverage ecological synergies. Reliance on ecological cycles. They prioritize nutrient cycling, fish manure, bean nitrogen, and water conservation, SOM, shading, over imported, synthetic inputs. Local knowledge and adaptation. The most resilient systems are those that are intensely adapted to their specific regional climate, soil, and cultural needs, often drawing on generations of accumulated local wisdom. Resilience. Diversified systems exhibit a higher capacity to withstand extreme climate events, market shocks, and pest pressures, offering greater long-term stability than fragile, specialized monocultures. Conclusion and transition. The global tapestry of sustainable agriculture is rich and varied, demonstrating that the future of food production lies in intelligently integrating ecological principles into local economic and social realities. Success is defined by the flexibility and integration of techniques, not by the adoption of a single technology. Roadmap for the future. Scaling sustainable agriculture in the 21st century. Introduction. The integrated challenge. We have established the compelling case for a global shift to sustainable agriculture. It is necessary for planetary health, Section 1, achievable through proven ecological techniques, Section 2, economically sound in the long term, Section 3, and requires comprehensive policy support, Section 4, drawing lessons from diverse global models, Section 5. The final challenge is one of scale and speed. The transition must happen rapidly to meet the deadlines imposed by climate change and biodiversity loss. This roadmap outlines the 6 essential, interconnected action areas required to transform sustainable agriculture from a niche practice to the dominant global food production system. Action Area 1. Redefining and rewarding farm success. The foundation of the roadmap is changing what we measure and what we pay for. Success can no longer be defined solely by bushel yield per acre. Mandate soil health metrics. Global governance bodies, like the FAO and national agencies, must standardize and mandate the measurement of soil organic carbon, SOC, and water infiltration rates. These metrics should be used by banks, insurers, and governments to assess farm asset value and risk. Decouple subsidies from yield. All remaining commodity subsidies must be restructured to reward ecological performance. Funds should be directly tied to the generation of ecosystem services, carbon sequestration, water quality improvement, biodiversity, and not merely acres planted. Establish global carbon verification. A universal, scientifically robust protocol is needed to verify soil carbon sequestration, enabling a stable, trusted, and scalable carbon market that provides a reliable, non-crop revenue stream for farmers. Action Area 2. Democratizing knowledge and technology. Sustainable agriculture is knowledge-intensive, requiring site-specific decisions rather than standardized chemical application. The knowledge gap is the biggest impediment to adoption, especially among smallholder farmers. Open-source extension systems. Governments and NGOs should invest in making all research on regenerative practices, biological controls, and drought-resistant varieties open-source and digitally accessible. AI-powered precision coaching. Develop and deploy artificial intelligence, AI, tools that integrate local weather data, soil tests, and satellite imagery to provide immediate, actionable, and personalized advice to farmers on their mobile devices, e.g., apply cover crop X now, or monitor pest Y in Zone 3. Farmer-led networks. Policy must formally fund peer-to-peer training and mentoring programs. Farmers are most influenced by the success of their neighbors, making local demonstration farms and farmer-led innovation networks the most effective way to scale complex practices. Action Area 3. Bridging the financial valley of death. The transition period, years 1 to 5, when yields may temporarily dip and new equipment is needed, is the single highest risk for a farmer. Financial systems must be designed to absorb this risk. De-risking capital. Create specialized green loan or transition finance products that offer extremely low interest rates or loan deferments during the first few years of a verified sustainable transition. Tailored insurance products. Develop crop insurance policies that specifically recognize the lower overall risk of diversified and regenerative systems. Policies should protect against revenue loss, not just yield loss, and account for the value of new crops in diversified polycultures. Public-private venture capital. Launch public-private funds dedicated to scaling necessary infrastructure, such as regional composting facilities for urban waste, or production facilities for biochar and biological control agents. Action Area 4. Empowering consumers and supply chains. Market signals must be clear and rewarding for sustainable producers. Consumers need simple, trustworthy information, and corporations need standardized accountability. Universal sustainability labeling. Implement a mandatory, simplified sustainability labeling system at the point of sale, similar to the EU's proposed system. This label should use a unified, verifiable metric, e.g., carbon footprint, water usage, to make the economic premium for sustainable goods transparent and easy to justify. Mandatory corporate sourcing. Governments should institute mandates requiring food and beverage corporations to increase the percentage of sustainably and regeneratively sourced inputs, e.g., 50% of commodities must be third-party certified sustainable by 2035. Invest in local regional infrastructure. Fund small and medium-scale infrastructure, processing, storage, distribution, to support localized and diversified food systems, allowing farmers to access direct markets and capture more retail value. Section 3. Action Area 5. Integrating agriculture into climate policy. Sustainable agriculture must be recognized as a primary climate mitigation tool, equal in importance to renewable energy and electric vehicles. National carbon budgets include soil carbon sequestration targets within every nation's nationally determined contributions, NDCs, under the Paris Agreement. This elevates soil health from an agricultural concern to a national climate priority. Landscape-level planning. Implement policies that facilitate regional, multi-stakeholder land use planning across watersheds or agroecological zones. This ensures that individual farm decisions, like managing runoff, are harmonized to achieve a collective environmental benefit, like clean drinking water for a city. Research focus on climate resilience, redirect public agricultural research funding overwhelmingly toward developing locally adapted, climate-resilient crop varieties and farming systems that can withstand extreme heat, drought, and flooding. Conclusion: the regenerative future. The future of global food security and planetary health is indivisible from the health of our soil. The transition to sustainable agriculture is not a retreat to the past, but a scientific and economic necessity, leveraging technology and ecology to create systems that are productive, profitable, and resilient. This roadmap provides the integrated set of actions, from the soil level to the policy level, required to accelerate this transition. By aligning financial incentives with ecological outcomes, democratizing knowledge, and integrating agriculture into the global climate agenda, the world can successfully scale sustainable agriculture in the 21st century, ensuring a stable food supply for a growing population on a healing planet. Executive summary and concluding synthesis. The indivisible mandate: health, wealth, and planet. The comprehensive analysis across the preceding 6 sections reveals a single, critical truth. The global food system is at an inflection point, and sustainable agriculture is not an optional preference but an indivisible mandate for the 21st century. It is the necessary bridge linking human survival, economic stability, and ecological resilience. The core synthesis. This transition is fundamentally about shifting from a linear, extractive agricultural model, which depletes resources and externalizes costs, pollution, climate change, to a circular, regenerative model that builds natural capital. Necessity and risk. Section 1. The current system, reliant on monocultures and chemical inputs, is fundamentally fragile. It accelerates climate change, exhausts the soil, and collapses biodiversity. Ignoring this systemic risk is a threat to global food security. Solution and science. Section 2. The pathway is clear, utilizing proven, science-backed ecological techniques. Methods like no-till farming, cover cropping, integrated pest management, IPM, and agroforestry work by enhancing the farm's natural processes, treating the soil as a living ecosystem rather than just a substrate. Economics and resilience. Section 3. The long-term business case is strong. Sustainable farms achieve financial resilience by drastically reducing input costs, fertilizer, pesticides, fuel, and accessing high-value markets, organic, regenerative, proving that ecological health is the ultimate form of asset preservation. Policy and governance. Section 4. This transition cannot be solely farmer-led. It requires top-down policy support that redefines success, moving from rewarding volume to paying for ecosystem services, e.g., carbon sequestration. Institutions like the USDA must transition from production focus to stewardship enablers. Global learning. Section 5. Success is not a single blueprint. Global models, from the EU's top-down targets to Asia's integrated ricefish culture and Mesoamerica's milpa system, show that the most resilient models are those that are functionally diverse and deeply adapted to their local ecological and cultural context. The roadmap, Section 6. Scaling this transition requires 6 key action areas: redefining metrics, democratizing knowledge via AI, de-risking capital, bridging the valley of death, empowering consumers with clear labels, and integrating agriculture into national climate policy. A call to action: the investment in natural capital. The overarching lesson is that natural capital, healthy soil, clean water, and biodiversity, is the most undervalued asset in the global economy. Sustainable agriculture is, therefore, the most vital global infrastructure investment of our time. For policymakers and governments. Your role is to shift the incentive structure. Policy must make it easier and more profitable for a farmer to be a carbon steward than a commodity producer. Immediately accelerate the transition by mandating clear, verifiable soil health targets tied to financial programs. Redirecting commodity subsidies into ecosystem service payments. For industry and finance. Your role is to de-risk the transition. Recognize that the climate risk posed by conventional agriculture is a financial liability. Develop specialized financial products, e.g., green loans, to cover transitional costs. Commit to verifiable, long-term sustainable sourcing mandates to stabilize the premium market. For researchers and technologists. Your role is to democratize knowledge. Complexity is the enemy of adoption. Focus research on locally adapted, climate-resilient varieties. Build accessible, AI-powered tools that put sophisticated, site-specific regenerative advice directly into the hands of every farmer globally. The regenerative future. The vision of a regenerative future is one where farms are not passive recipients of subsidies and chemical inputs, but active participants in ecological restoration. They become hubs of biodiversity, vital climate solutions, and sources of stable economic prosperity for rural communities. This transition is a marathon, not a sprint, but the starting gun has fired. By adopting an integrated approach that harmonizes policy, finance, science, and practice, the world can successfully scale sustainable agriculture, ensuring a resilient and thriving future for food, people, and the planet.